Liam had always been someone with a clear sense of boundaries. He never let anyone easily step into what we had. That's why what happened today surprised me. That day, Liam and I were going to a private auction. I had put a lot of effort into getting ready for it. He came to pick me up in person, and I was filled with joy. Unlike his usual ride, sunlight filtered through the gaps between the treetops, casting dappled shadows on his car, adding a touch of mystery to its already striking appearance. I opened the door and sat in the front passenger seat. Just as I was about to fasten my seatbelt, I noticed a slight adjustment in the seat position. The change wasn't big, but I could feel it immediately. A subtle wave of unease rose within me, and doubt quietly took root in my heart. Still, I didn't want to let that doubt ruin the pleasant mood. Without showing any reaction, I buckled my seatbelt and asked Liam in a relaxed tone why it felt like the passenger seat had been adjusted. As I spoke, my fingers lightly brushed the edge of the seat. He seemed a little surprised and said, "Oh, probably got moved during the last maintenance." As he answered, he reached over, trying to adjust the seat for me. I gently stopped him, shook my head with a smile, and said, "Let's go, the auction's about to start." As I spoke, I adjusted the seat myself, trying to make it more comfortable. Although I still felt a trace of suspicion in my heart, I didn't say anything more. That car had been a gift to Liam. The driver never used it. The front passenger seat was always meant for me. He nodded and started the car. I leaned back in my seat, gazing out the window at the scenery. The sunlight streamed through the window, warming my face. I silently told myself that his explanation sounded reasonable. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't as simple as it seemed. Then came the day of the charity banquet. Liam drove to pick me up. When I opened the passenger door, I froze. There was a girl sitting in my seat, a pretty one. "Hello, ma'am." The girl greeted me cheerfully, but made no move to give up the seat. I smiled at her, and then looked at Liam. He acted as if nothing was wrong and gestured for me to get in. Since this was a formal banquet, I had deliberately chosen a graceful gown that matched his suit perfectly. But Liam didn't even seem to notice and had let another woman sit in my seat. "Nice to meet you, ma'am. I'm Emily Chen, Mr. Morgan's new assistant," she said sweetly. She looked youthful and lively, her face full of bright smiles. "I just joined the company and still don't know much. Since there's a charity banquet today, I asked Mr. Morgan to let me tag along and see how these things work. Don't worry, I won't get in your way." I nodded casually but kept my eyes locked on Liam. A flicker of something unreadable crossed his face. "Get in the car," he said, "or we'll be late." In that moment, my heart sank. We had known each other for years. I knew Liam well. He had always been someone with strong boundaries. He never allowed others to interfere with what we had. That's why today took me by surprise. I suddenly recalled the adjusted seat from last time, and a surge of anger flooded my chest. My expression changed instantly. I hadn't been in this kind of situation before, but I'd seen plenty of it. At the same time, I fully understood what Liam's message was. But I was the daughter of the Walker family. There was no way I would wrong myself just to let someone else save face. I turned to Emily, looked her straight in the eye, and said firmly, "Get out." The air instantly turned tense. Emily was stunned by how direct I was, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Do you have a hearing problem?" I asked again, my voice cold. Emily's expression shifted drastically. She hadn't expected me to be so blunt and decisive. "I'm sorry for causing trouble," she said with a forced smile. She opened the door and got out of the car. "I was just really interested in charity work and wanted to learn something." Only then did Liam seem to realize I was truly angry. A look of helplessness and indulgence crept across Liam's face as I got into the car. He leaned over to fasten my seatbelt for me, but I noticed immediately the seat had been adjusted again. It felt exactly the same as last time. Irritated, I readjusted it myself. After all that fussing, I was fuming. The atmosphere inside the car grew tense and heavy. It seemed like Emily finally realized she had upset me. "I'm sorry, ma'am," she said, her voice full of guilt. "I was being inconsiderate and made you angry. I won't go anymore." Her face was filled with remorse. I looked at her with a faint smile and gave a dismissive nod. Liam glanced at me and said calmly, "If you're not in the mood to go, we'll head home instead. Looking at Emily's pitiful expression made me feel even more annoyed. Fine. I'm not in the mood. Let's go home, I said. Emily froze for a moment when she heard me, but quickly snapped out of it and glanced nervously at Liam. He ignored her look completely. Tears suddenly fell down her cheeks as she bowed toward me. I'm sorry, ma'am, she said, then ran off crying. Because of who we were, Liam and I had always been mindful of our public image. We kept up appearances in front of others. Situations like this hardly ever happened. She was just a college graduate, fresh out in the real world. Why would I even bother getting worked up over her? Liam looked at me with a soft gaze. That's the second time, I said. He looked puzzled. What is? It's the second time you've let another woman sit in my seat. Liam was momentarily stunned, clearly not expecting that this was what I cared about. His tone softened as he replied, How is that the second time? The passenger seat was adjusted last time too, wasn't it? Adjusted the same way it was today. Liam let out a helpless sigh. She's just a subordinate, that's all. There's nothing else between us. Listening to him dodge the point made me curl my lips in a cold smile. I said nothing. The tension between us grew more subtle. Liam turned to me, looking me in the eyes with unusual seriousness. Everything I said is true. But you allowed her to cross the line, I replied flatly. That bothers me. I could see it in her eyes. Her intentions toward you aren't pure. He said it was inappropriate for a staff member to sit in the back while the boss was driving, Liam explained. I nodded slightly. Let's go home. On the way back, I sat quietly in the car, watching the view outside the window. The golden light of the setting sun spilled across the road, adding a touch of warmth to an otherwise ordinary day. I had always trusted my instincts. The moment I saw Emily, I knew she had feelings for Liam. Lara Wilson, my childhood best friend, had always been someone I could talk to about anything. Compared to me, she had more experience when it came to relationships, so I asked her what she thought. Girl, trust your gut, she said without hesitation. Your sixth sense is right on. She planned this from the start, trying to throw you off balance in front of Liam. First, she acted all clueless like the new girl. Then she shamelessly planted herself in the front seat and refused to move. If you made her get up, it'd make you look petty, like you were bullying her. But if you didn't, then you'd have to sit there stewing while your man drove around with her by his side. That's just straight up provoking you. I nodded in agreement. She's definitely got a plan. She made her move the first time we met. But what I didn't expect was how fast her next move came. I thought that first confrontation would be enough of a warning. Yet just 3 days later, I saw Emily show up, dressed to the nines, at an even more upscale charity banquet. Zoe Carter, Liam's chief assistant, was someone I was fairly familiar with. I would sometimes ask her about certain things. That day, she sent me a photo and a screenshot of a social media post. In the photo, Emily was standing in the center of a lively banquet hall. Emily was dressed head to toe in haute couture, her makeup flawless, making her look even more delicate and charming than before. In the photo, Liam was clearly visible in the background. The screenshot was of a social media post Emily had made, which read, "To shine at a banquet, you have to wear a stunning dress." When I saw it, I actually laughed out of sheer frustration. I took a closer look at the photo and realized the gown she was wearing looked incredibly similar to the one I had worn just a few days earlier. I couldn't help but wonder if it was mine or a knockoff. Then I suddenly remembered that I had left that very dress in Liam's car. And now, here it was, on Emily. The answer was obvious. I was livid. It was an overwhelming, nauseating feeling. Someone I didn't even regard as competition had been given the chance to get close to someone beside me, and now she was repeatedly provoking me. It was almost unbearable. For a moment, I wanted to forget all consequences and slap her across the face, twice, just to make a point. But when I looked down at my own hands, I realized it was beneath me to waste my energy on someone so petty and manipulative. Giving her that much attention would only lower my worth. So instead, I called Laura. Girl, I'm in a bad mood. Let's go out and blow off some steam, okay? I'm in. Where are we meeting? I don't feel like choosing. Recommend a good spot you pick. I'll send you the address on WeChat. A minute later, she sent over the location of a hot spring resort. A soak sounded perfect. I grabbed my keys and headed over. At the resort, we relaxed together in the warm water. Laura looked over at me. "Who pissed you off this time?" I gave her a brief rundown of what had happened. After listening, she paused thoughtfully, then said, "The first time you mentioned her, I already had a bad feeling. That girl doesn't play by the rules." I nodded slightly. She took a small sip of her red wine, sneered, and said, "She just wants to show off, right? Then let her. Let's give her a chance to really shine on a bigger stage." I turned to her, puzzled. "What do you mean?" "I have a friend who works in media. He attended both of the recent charity banquets. The one Emily went to with Liam? That one was pretty high profile." "So?" "That photo she posted, totally staged to make herself look angelic. But here's the thing, if the organizers find out that the gown she wore had already been seen at another similar event just a few days before, what do you think will happen?" I nodded, starting to understand. "She basically just slapped the organizers in the face," Laura said. "And Liam might get caught up in the fallout too. Then I'll leave it to your friend, I owe him dinner." I raised my arm and gently swirled the wine in my glass. "Cheers." Our eyes met, and we smiled knowingly. Laura's friend worked fast. In less than half an hour, the story was already trending online. When posting about the incident, he even tagged the event organizers. Though they hadn't issued a response yet, sharp-eyed netizens quickly recognized Emily as Liam's companion at the banquet. Hot topics erupted all over social media: Liam Morgan's mystery date, the recycled gown scandal, who wore that dress first, how a no-name embarrassed the event hosts, and more. The discussion spread like wildfire. Some people argued that it was just a dress and didn't warrant such a fuss, maybe Emily hadn't known. But others quickly countered. How could the personal assistant to a major CEO not understand basic etiquette or social protocol? Digging even deeper, some began investigating Emily's background. They discovered she was a recent graduate from an ordinary family, and people started questioning how someone like that suddenly showed up at a high-profile event wearing a custom designer gown. At the same time, someone reposted Emily's earlier social media post. And from that, many inferred that the dress had been a gift from Liam. Public opinion split into two camps. One side accused Liam of being stingy. How could he give away a second-hand dress? While the other speculated about Emily's real motive behind posting that photo. In any case, the discussions exploded and showed no sign of slowing down. Once the news reached Liam's company, the head of the PR department immediately reported the situation to him and asked whether the gown had, in fact, been a gift from him. After receiving confirmation, the PR manager swiftly decided to issue a public statement, expressing sincere apologies to the event organizers and explaining that it had been an unintentional oversight. They clarified that the gown had simply been something Liam had casually given away. Emily's decision to wear the gown to the banquet and share it on social media was declared her personal act, unrelated to the company or Mr. Morgan. As soon as the statement was released, the public's attention shifted back to Emily. Some nosy internet users even began speculating whether I had been the original wearer of the gown, and if Emily was a mistress trying to challenge the main woman, only to fail miserably. I skimmed over some of the gossip, but I didn't comment or react. I stayed focused on choosing a dinner menu with Laura. After the statement came out, the company's internal gossip circles were buzzing even more. While Emily was being mocked online, she also became the center of attention inside the office. With people whispering behind her back and casting judgmental looks, she turned pale as a sheet and didn't know what to do. She rushed into the stairwell, only to overhear a conversation between two colleagues. Emily just joined the company and already became a joke. This is going to be fun to watch. Exactly. If she overestimates herself like that, of course she's going to get smacked down. They laughed with ill intent, their tones dripping with sarcasm and mockery. Emily stood frozen, her hand clenched tightly around the doorknob as she listened. After a long, deep breath to calm herself, she composed her emotions and quietly returned to her desk. She carefully folded the gown and placed it neatly into a box, fully intact. She was planning to find the right time to return it to Liam. At the end of the workday, after most of the employees had left, Emily, looking lost and dejected, also prepared to leave. But then she noticed Liam was still in his office. She returned to retrieve the box, tidied up her appearance, and stared into the mirror at her pitiful expression before pushing open the office door. Liam had just finished his work and was getting ready to head out. His gaze landed on the girl cautiously stepping into the room. Her face was pale, and she clutched the box tightly, looking overwhelmed. "What is it?" Liam asked, puzzled. Tears welled in Emily's eyes before she even spoke. Her voice was low and choked with emotion, practically begging for sympathy. "Mr. Morgan, this dress. Please take it back. I don't deserve it." Liam's usually calm face flickered with a trace of emotion. His instincts told him something was off, but he didn't rush to ask. He simply looked at her in silence. Emily cast a timid glance at Liam, then quickly lowered her head. After a deep breath, as if summoning all her courage, she looked up again with a look of quiet determination. "I'm sorry, Mr. Morgan. I keep causing you trouble. I only posted that photo because I was excited. It was my first banquet, and the dress was so beautiful, I couldn't help but praise it. You gave it to me so casually, I didn't expect Mrs. Walker to misunderstand. I didn't mean for this to blow up into such a mess." Her voice was soft and trembling, her tone full of sorrow and remorse. "Mr. Morgan, I'd like to apologize to Mrs. Walker in person. I want to explain everything myself." That was Emily's request. Liam didn't usually follow celebrity gossip or trending news, so most of what he knew about the incident had come from the PR manager's briefing. Still, as the head of the company, he was aware of the malicious rumors both inside the office and online. A chill crept over his expression, and even a hint of anger flashed in his eyes. What he didn't realize was that I had played a role in all of this. "I understand," he said in a low, serious voice. "I had thought the matter was over. I'd gotten the result I wanted. The person who provoked me had received her lesson. I didn't feel the need to push things any further. But just because I was ready to move on, didn't mean everyone else was." That night, Liam brought Emily back to the villa. She stood behind him, looking small and helpless. "I brought Emily back because I want her to explain everything to you personally," Liam sighed. "Emily is just my assistant, that's all." "About that day," Liam began, "I was trying to express my apologies. She casually complimented the dress, so I gave it to her on a whim. That's all there was to it." I sat calmly on the sofa, my eyes fixed on my phone. "I'm sorry, ma'am." Emily looked meekly at Liam. After receiving his nod of encouragement, she turned toward me and gave a deep bow. Her voice was soft, barely audible. "I've never attended a banquet before. I was hoping to use that opportunity to gain some experience, but in the end, I didn't get to go. I was really disappointed. When I finally had the chance, I got excited and posted a photo on social media. The dress Mr. Morgan gave me, it was just so beautiful. I wanted to commemorate it. And at that moment, I really needed something formal to wear, so I accepted it without thinking much. If my actions made you uncomfortable, please just tell me directly. I'll correct myself immediately." After hearing her speech, I raised my eyebrows slightly. "Emily, right?" She looked at me, nodded slowly, and even gave me a small smile. I stared at her, observing the way she was trying to challenge me. I let out a breath of helpless laughter. "We've only met once. We don't know each other at all, so how can you be so sure it was me who did all of this? And why would you come to me to apologize?" Emily froze at my words, unable to respond. Her face turned a shade of embarrassed red, and she dropped her head again, resuming that helpless and fragile posture. "Luna," Liam said gently, trying to ease the tension. He knew me well, and the dress was mine. It made sense that he assumed I was behind it. Hearing him call me Luna instead of the usual endearments made a faint coldness rise in my heart. I offered no reply. "Luna," he repeated softly, as if to remind me. Even though he didn't agree with what I'd done, the situation had already escalated. There was no point in arguing further. So, he didn't press me but brought Emily here to apologize, silently acknowledging the matter between us without making it explicit. I gave a half-hearted response and then glanced at Liam. My tone was cool as I said, "There won't be a next time. No matter who it is." I stood up and walked upstairs at a steady pace. After Liam saw Emily out of the villa, he immediately followed me up and found me sitting by the floor-to-ceiling window, gazing at the view outside. He came up behind me and gently wrapped his arms around me. "You're still mad?" I let out a light laugh. "Mad? About what?" He paused. "All right, It's over now. Let's just leave it behind us. I had fully intended to let it go, but in that moment, something inside me resisted. So I was just supposed to endure the humiliation? I looked at him sarcastically. I think you're overreacting, Liam said seriously. Besides, the aftermath of this whole thing is still ongoing. Emily will have to bear the consequences for a long time, I countered coldly. If she hadn't provoked me first, I wouldn't even have known you gave my dress to someone else. You're blowing this way out of proportion over a dress, he argued. Now everyone knows. You've embarrassed me. I pulled out of his arms and stared directly at him. So you really think this entire situation is my fault? Did you ever bother to tell me beforehand that you gave my dress to another woman? If Emily hadn't flaunted it, would I even have found out? I had never been this direct or confrontational with Liam before, and for a moment, he was completely speechless. But I didn't stop there. My emotions surged. If you and she hadn't started this mess, would I have needed to retaliate at all? He looked at me and shook his head, disappointment filling his eyes. I didn't think you'd become this kind of person. The way he looked at me, as if I were some kind of heartless villain, cut deeper than I expected. What kind of person am I? I asked, my voice low but firm. Liam's expression turned cold. The kind who pushes someone to the center of public scorn. Does that make you feel better? I'd rather you had just scolded her to her face like that day. At least that would have been quick and direct. But this? What you did to her was cruel. You humiliated her. You tortured her. I suddenly burst into laughter. All right, so next time, if she shows up in front of me again, I slapped her across the face twice. Liam stared at me in disbelief. Luna, what is wrong with you? He asked, his voice rising. I feel like I don't even know you anymore. How can you be so cold, so indifferent? I didn't hesitate. Then maybe you've misunderstood me. I've always been this way. If people don't cross me, I don't cross them. But if anyone does, I make sure they face the consequences. Emily should take responsibility for what she did. Disappointment flickered in Liam's eyes, his expression tinged with frustration. You're being completely unreasonable right now. Think about what you're doing. I stared straight into his eyes, unyielding. She was the one in the wrong first. You can sympathize with her, even forgive her. But me? I gave her a small punishment, and now I'm the one you're furious at. Where are your principles? Because you're the woman I love, he said. And she isn't. I don't want the woman I love to become someone cruel. So I was bullied, and because I pushed back, that makes me cruel? I laughed bitterly. That's ridiculous. You weren't like this before, he muttered. You used to be gentle, kind. And with that, Liam turned and walked out without looking back. I sat there, stunned, staring at his retreating figure. The lights outside the window blinked quietly as a wave of coldness settled deep in my heart. For the first time, I seriously questioned our marriage. I thought about the past. Back when we had misunderstandings or arguments, he would gently coax me, hold me softly. When I got upset or jealous, he would just smile and tease me gently, sometimes even bring me little gifts to cheer me up. I used to tell him, Lara says you're just a block of ice, and he would reply calmly, if I were that cold to you, I'd end up growing old alone. I'd tell him, I have a bad temper. I was born a princess and act like one. And he would say, dotingly, I like your spoiled side. You feel so out of reach, but I'm lucky to have you. Honestly, I think you're perfect this way. When I'm not around, no one can bully you. Thinking back now, it felt almost ironic, because now when I defend myself, I'm suddenly the one being called cruel and heartless. It felt like our marriage was nearing its end. Because of everything that had happened, everyone in the company knew Emily had crossed a line. People started distancing themselves from her. Within just 2 weeks, she was almost completely isolated. That day, a shipment of supplies arrived at the office, and it happened to fall under Emily's responsibility. If everyone had worked together, it could have been sorted quickly. But no one lifted a finger, they just stood by and watched. By the end of the workday, she was still struggling on her own. In the wide, empty office, she was the only one left, still working. She looked small, pitiful, and helpless. Liam happened to witness the scene as he passed by. Emily noticed his gaze and glanced weakly in his direction. His eyes darkened with quiet intensity, and his silent stare made her lower her head like a frightened animal. "Mr. Morgan," she whispered, tears falling silently as she greeted him. From the first moment Emily laid eyes on Liam, she had felt something for him: admiration, longing, and a growing desire to win him over. During this time, she had been trying to find a way to change her situation, but hadn't found a chance until now. She instinctively felt this could be a turning point, so she let herself appear as vulnerable as possible, hoping Liam would sense her fragility and the fact that she was being unfairly targeted. Liam's heart burned with anger at the sight. Emily's pitiful, mistreated appearance said everything, but she said nothing more. She just stood there, quietly enduring. That night, when Liam got home, he found me chatting happily with Zoe Carter. We greeted him as he came in, but he only gave us a cold, indifferent nod and walked straight into the study. Sensing something wasn't right, Zoe quickly made her excuses and left. When I followed him into the study, Liam turned to me, eyes sharp, his tone accusatory. "Luna," he snapped. "What exactly are you trying to do?" "How did you become like this?" Liam snapped. "Did Emily do something so unforgivable that you had to go after her this way? I've respected you, loved you, and tolerated your actions, but why do you keep going further and further? Does bullying someone weaker make you feel powerful?" "Luna, if I ever see you hurt someone like this again, I won't just stand by and watch." I stared at the furious man before me, utterly disgusted. For the first time since we were married, Liam had completely lost control over a woman and over something I didn't even do. He didn't care to listen to my side. He didn't even try to find out the truth. He just lashed out at me. In that moment, something inside me broke. It felt like my heart had split clean in two. Without waiting for a single word from me, Liam stormed out, slammed the door, and drove away. The next morning, at the office, Liam handed down a harsh punishment to everyone who had targeted Emily. Every one of them had half a month's salary docked. Zoe Carter was even demoted. When Emily heard about what happened to Zoe, who held the role of executive assistant, she approached her and asked if she'd consider working at Wen's group. Zoe, confident in her abilities and unwilling to put up with Emily's games, accepted without hesitation. The relationship between Liam and me descended into a cold war like never before. He even moved out of the house and into an apartment near the company. The worst part? He brought Emily along to help him pack his things. If Liam wanted to go for the kill, he certainly knew how. He never made a scene, but his moves cut deep. The housekeeper had already been informed in advance. She had everything packed and ready for him: clothes, toiletries, even his vitamins. When I saw them arrive, I didn't react. I simply turned and went to the art studio, telling the housekeeper clearly not to let anyone disturb me. While Liam went upstairs to pack, Emily deliberately lingered downstairs, wandering the halls of the villa in an obvious attempt to accidentally run into me. That night, I returned to my bedroom and stared at the now empty section of the closet. Just a few hangers remained where Liam's suits used to hang. The housekeeper, seeing my silence, tried to comfort me. "Ma'am, maybe you should give in a little. Say something nice to the mister. Between husband and wife, it's all about understanding. Sometimes it's better to talk things through than let things escalate." "Apologize?" I repeated, scoffing. "And for what? Just because Liam's waiting for me to crawl back and admit I was wrong?" "What a joke," I muttered. "Let him keep dreaming." So Liam and I entered a prolonged Cold War, living separately and barely speaking. Emily took full advantage of the situation. She constantly posted photos of herself with Liam on social media, sharing glimpses of their daily life together. She followed him to every public event, staying right by his side. People I used to associate with quietly messaged me. I understood what they meant. Everyone was being tactful, choosing not to say too much, but their words hinted at concern. To their kind messages, I simply replied with a polite, "Thank you." I didn't let myself get too caught up in any of it. As for my relationship with Liam, I no longer had the energy to maintain it. What's the point of holding on to something that's already changed? No amount of effort could fix what no longer mattered. I would rather retreat gracefully than continue living small in someone else's world. Eventually, we all have to say goodbye to the things we can't hold on to. Some people and some situations are simply meant to end. Lara, Knowing things between Liam and me had become tense, called and asked if I wanted to join her on an upcoming trip to Italy. She was heading there soon. It hit me then. Liam and I had once planned to see an art exhibition in Italy together. It was supposed to be around this time. Both our companies were about to enter a major collaboration, so it wasn't the right time to bring up divorce. But privately, I began making arrangements. I asked Wen's group's legal team to help me draw up a property division plan. I also found a new place to live and decided to clear out the villa. I asked the housekeeper to clean the house thoroughly, then paid and dismissed the staff. Alone in the big house, I found the silence unbearable. So, I happily accepted Laura's invitation. On the day of the art exhibition, Laura and I strolled the gallery, admiring the beautiful pieces on display. As I wandered through the exhibition hall, I suddenly caught sight of Liam and Emily standing together. I took a picture and turned away without another glance. I didn't expect Laura to follow my gaze and spot them too, but I shook my head at her slightly. She got the message and quietly swallowed her anger. Seeing her like that made me want to laugh a little. "All right," I said. "We've seen everything on this side. Let's head in a different direction." Laura looked surprised. "You're just gonna leave like that? Don't you want to see the look on his face when he notices you? It's bound to be entertaining." I shook my head without hesitation. "I'm not interested. Let's go. Don't be so nosy." Laura laughed, bright as the night blooming in spring. "Let's just pretend they don't exist and keep enjoying this beautiful exhibition." I nodded gently, a mischievous glint flickering in my eyes. "Forget about them. Let's focus on the art. Weren't you here to find inspiration?" Laura smiled in agreement and added, "Then tonight, let me treat you to a grand dinner." I happily accepted. As night fell, we indulged in a delicious meal, then headed straight back to the hotel. We didn't cross paths with Liam and Emily again. The next day, Laura was hit with a burst of inspiration and decided to return home to work on it. I, on the other hand, still felt like exploring. Coincidentally, the Milan Fashion Week was just kicking off, so I began preparing to go. The following morning, we parted ways at the airport. I boarded my flight alone. And that's when something unexpected happened. I ran into an old classmate I hadn't seen in years, Jason G. We first met in college, during an elective course. We had always gotten along easily, sharing many interests and ideas. The feelings between us had hovered somewhere between friendship and something more, though never quite crossing that invisible line. But when my family's engagement arrangement with the Morgan family was brought forward, Liam and I began cultivating our relationship and preparing for a more serious commitment. Around the same time, Jason chose not to take over his family business and instead went abroad to study. After that, we rarely saw each other again. Even so, I often came across his name in magazines and on social media. After returning to the country, he founded a film company and began working in the entertainment industry, so his presence in media circles became frequent and familiar. When we met again on the flight, he was the one to break the silence with his usual gentle voice. "What a coincidence. It's been a long time," I smiled softly. "Yes, it really has." He glanced over, then asked quietly, "Are you traveling for work or leisure?" "Just to clear my head," I replied, "and to catch a bit of fashion while I'm at it." "That sounds great," he said, smiling wryly. "Compared to you, I feel a bit pathetic. I'm on a business trip again." I chuckled lightly. "You're always working. How could I possibly compare?" "Why not?" he replied. "If I had the chance, I'd definitely want to travel the way you do." We chatted casually for a while longer, then I closed my eyes for a brief nap. After the flight landed, he asked, "Which hotel are you staying at? I'll drop you off." When I told him the name, we were both surprised to realize we were staying at the same hotel, so we headed there together. In the following days, I wandered through Milan's famous sights, savoring the city at a leisurely pace. Meanwhile, Jason was busy with meetings and barely around the hotel. It wasn't until I returned from a show one afternoon that I ran into him again in the hotel lobby. "How's your trip been?" he asked. "Heading home soon?" "It's been good," I said. "I've seen almost everything I wanted to. My work's just wrapped up too." He looked at me thoughtfully. "I've got the next 2 days free. Would you be up for a bit of sightseeing together?" I arched a brow playfully. "Are you inviting me to be your tour buddy?" He nodded. If I'm lucky enough, that is. Over the next 2 days, Jason and I explored freely, enjoying glittering night views and creating countless beautiful, unforgettable memories. On our last evening, we released sky lanterns together. Jason's voice was gentle as he said, "We're heading home tomorrow. Let's send all our troubles away with these lanterns." I smiled quietly. "I've had a great time." But he looked at me with certainty. "You definitely have something weighing on your heart. If you ever want to talk, I'm here." I'm not sure why, but I actually ended up telling him everything about what had happened between me and Liam. After I finished, Jason gently pulled me into a hug and said softly, "When you're wronged, you should always stand up for yourself. You don't need to make yourself smaller for anyone. Go do what you want. You're supposed to be someone bright and full of light, not someone who hides her pain in silence." He handed me a lantern. "Only when you let go of what's dragging you down and walk away from those who aren't worth your time can you make space for something truly precious." He raised an eyebrow at me and flashed a bright smile. In that moment, all the heaviness I had been carrying suddenly vanished, as if blown away by the night breeze. Originally, we had planned to return together, but a last-minute work engagement came up for Jason, so we said goodbye at the airport, and I returned first. The day after I got back, I received a call from Liam, who had just returned from his business trip. That day was the opening event for the collaboration between our two companies. Everything appeared as if nothing had changed. Business as usual. Liam had the driver pick him up from the airport, and I was scheduled to meet him on the way to the venue. When I approached the car, I was surprised to see Liam and Emily already sitting side by side in the back seat, and even more unexpectedly, the front passenger seat had been left open for me. I couldn't help but find the entire situation ridiculous. Still, I quietly accepted it, no longer feeling the need to assert my place. Liam's face was expressionless, the air in the car tense and heavy. "Hello, ma'am," Emily said politely, breaking the silence. I felt a mischievous urge rise in me and responded brightly, "Hello." Emily clearly didn't expect me to greet her. She froze for a second, then quickly recovered. Compared to before, she now seemed a bit more composed and mature. Liam remained silent the entire ride, lips pressed into a tight line, not uttering a word. I, on the other hand, listened with mild amusement as Emily tried to humbly hint at her closeness to him. At the venue, after the event concluded, I was getting ready to leave when Liam's mother invited us to dinner. Seeing how warmly she greeted Emily, and how quickly Emily introduced herself, I could tell she was trying to win her over. To my surprise, Liam's mother seemed genuinely delighted. During casual post-meal conversation, Emily began chatting with her about some lighthearted moments Liam had experienced at work. Liam's mother listened, nodding along with satisfaction. Then the topic shifted, and she began asking about Liam's current home life. Naturally, Emily picked up the thread and continued the conversation without hesitation. The atmosphere began to feel subtly off. That part of the conversation, the one about daily life, should have been mine to respond to. Sensing the shift, Liam's mother cast a discreet glance in my direction. But I just smiled back, showing no sign of discomfort, even gesturing lightly for Emily to continue. Liam didn't say a word. Emily, now clearly aware that she had overstepped, faltered awkwardly and didn't go on. An uneasy silence settled over the room. Just then, my phone rang, breaking the awkward tension. I picked it up and stepped outside. Sensing the change in mood, Liam's mother quickly turned on the television. But ironically, what appeared on the screen only made the atmosphere even more bizarre. It was Lara calling. "You're trending," she said. It turned out the story of my unexpected reunion with Jason had made it to the top of the hot search rankings. Apparently, during my time in Italy, I had been spotted more than once in the same frame as Jason. Our coincidental meetings, first on the plane, then again in Milan, and finally our last 2 days spent sightseeing together, had been caught by persistent paparazzi. Now that Jason had returned home, the story of us was spreading like wildfire. The photos the media released included several moments that appeared quite intimate. I paused for a second, then responded calmly, "Got it, I'll handle it later." There was surprise in Lara's voice. "You're that calm?" I answered coolly. "Jason will know how to handle it properly." After a few brief words, we ended the call. When I returned to the living room, I could instantly sense the atmosphere had turned even stranger. Still, I said nothing. But it was Emily who spoke up first. "Ma'am, I didn't expect you had just returned to the country too." Her question felt completely out of place and made no sense to me, so I didn't respond. That's when I noticed Liam's mother looked visibly displeased. Liam himself remained expressionless, but I sensed a hint of suppressed anger beneath the surface. Emily's tone just now carried a trace of schadenfreude. That was when I realized the issue was with me. Recalling Lara's phone call moments ago, I quickly understood what had happened, but I still didn't offer an explanation. I remained calm and collected. Liam, seeing I had no intention of speaking, asked pointedly, "Luna, don't you have anything to say?" I glanced at him with a puzzled expression. "Say what? What is there to say?" The look on his face darkened, like a storm was about to break, but he restrained himself. He seemed to be waiting for a direct response from me. I gave him a soft smile. "What you saw was exactly what happened." He responded coldly. "That's your answer?" I nodded with an easy smile. "While you were off on your romantic honeymoon with your special someone, I arranged a little romantic getaway of my own. Is that a problem?" The moment the words left my mouth, I could feel Liam's fury skyrocket, but I remained composed, unfazed by his rising anger. I added, even more lightly, "There's really nothing left between us. No need for all this back and forth." I could see the color drain from his face, so I delivered one more deliberate blow. "How does it feel, Liam, being the one wearing the green hat this time?" I met his eyes without flinching, his hands clenched tightly at his sides, veins bulging from the pressure. But after a long breath, he forced himself to calm down. "I never cheated on you," he said flatly. "It's all just work." I gave him a look of scorn and said, "Oh, so nothing crossed the line? That's funny, because your assistant's social media is nothing but constant displays of how sweet and close you two are. Haven't you seen it?" I emphasized the word sweet deliberately. Giving him a sidelong glance, I continued, "Everyone in the industry has picked up on it. People have been quietly warning me, but you still think that's not crossing a line? You took her with you to the art exhibition, the one we had planned to see together, and that's perfectly normal?" I glanced at the two of them and smirked. "Maybe don't be so hypocritical." Once again, Liam was infuriated by my words, but his anger didn't bother me in the slightest. If anything, it gave me a perverse sense of satisfaction. I could tell Liam didn't agree with my interpretation of things. He truly believed that nothing had happened between him and Emily beyond work. He thought he was using Emily as a means to provoke the people around him, maybe to pressure me into reconciling. But clearly, things had spiraled far beyond what he anticipated. We were rapidly becoming irreparably distant. In front of Liam's mother, Emily eagerly tried to defend herself. "Ma'am, there's absolutely nothing inappropriate between Mr. Morgan and me. It's strictly work. As his assistant, I try my best to manage every detail, but I swear there's never been anything improper between us." She sat beside Liam, composed and calm. "Oh, is that so?" I said, voice sharp with irony. "So on the way here, you sat beside Liam while I, his wife, sat in the front seat like the chauffeur. If that's your version of being attentive to every detail, I must say, impressive." My sarcasm left her speechless. She had no response. I glanced at Liam and said, "So this is what you promoted Zoe Carter to chief assistant too?" I said, my tone steady. "She's a woman. She was your assistant. She's been with you since college, but did she ever sit beside you like that? She's more capable and more attentive than Emily ever was. Have I ever once gone after her?" Liam had nothing to say. I looked at him calmly and said, "Let's get a divorce." He stared at me in shock, the word divorce hitting him like a bolt from the blue. Then, without giving me a chance to resist, he grabbed my hand tightly and pulled me back home with him. The moment we stepped over the threshold, I saw the change in his eyes: shock, realization. The house was quiet. Empty, lifeless. The nannies and housekeepers who used to fill the space with motion were gone, just as I'd arranged. Liam froze where he stood, his expression twisted with disbelief. The home we had shared for 3 years now felt cold and unfamiliar. He finally understood. My plan to leave him had been in motion for a long time. He stared around, unable to accept it, and suddenly pulled me into a tight embrace. His voice was low, soft but resolute. "Luna, I've never betrayed you. Please, believe me." I didn't respond. I just stood there listening quietly to every word. "I didn't do anything wrong. You know that." Only then did I speak. "You brought Emily to our home to help you pack your bags. You took her to all those public events, knowing it would bother me. You agreed to go on vacation with me to see that art exhibition, and yet you brought her with you instead. You let her cross the line. You allowed her to provoke me. You left me humiliated, and pushed me to beg for peace. You say you hate bullies, but you stood there and watched while your so-called victim tested my limits again and again. I told you she had feelings for you. I told you I minded her presence. You knew all of it, and you still went ahead with it. And now you stand here and say you didn't do anything?" As I spoke, all the strength I had clung to crumbled. The emotional dam burst. My tears poured like a flood I couldn't hold back. It wasn't ignorance that hurt most. It was betrayal from someone who knew better and chose to do it anyway. Liam was visibly shaken, slowly backing down under my words. He tried to reach for me again, but I stepped aside. "Bookmark." His voice trembled. "Luna, I was wrong. I'm sorry." I wiped my tears. "It doesn't matter anymore. I'll make it up to you. I won't agree to the divorce." I turned my head, cold and detached. "If you really feel sorry for me, then let me go. If we can't understand each other, let's stop hurting each other." I placed the signed divorce papers on the table and left the villa. The moment I returned to my apartment, I received a call from Jason. "I'm sorry," he said. "You got dragged into this because of me. I've already handled it. It won't blow up further." "It's fine," I replied. "This whole thing didn't hurt me. Do you want me to explain things to your family?" "No need. It's not a big deal." Jason was surprised. "Are you sure?" "Positive. Let's just leave it at that." "Are you okay?" he asked after a pause. "You don't sound right." He hesitated. "Where are you? I'll come to you. Let me treat you to dinner and apologize in person." I politely declined and ended the call. Meanwhile, Liam shredded the divorce papers I left behind. He rehired a male assistant to replace Emily and reassigned her to a different position entirely. One afternoon, I was sitting at a cafe enjoying my coffee when Emily suddenly appeared in front of me. Her sudden presence caught me off guard. In just a few days, she had lost the bright energy she used to carry. Even thick foundation couldn't hide the exhaustion on her face. I signaled to the waiter to bring her a coffee and sat in silence, observing her. She stared at me, at my calm, confident posture, and her eyes turned red with suppressed rage. There was hatred in them. "You're the one who made Mr. Morgan demote me. Who do you think you are to look down on me? You don't deserve his love." "I don't deserve it?" I asked in a calm, almost amused tone. "And you do?" Emily's face changed instantly, though she tried hard to maintain her composure. "I've already threatened your position, even pushed you into a divorce. You still think I'm not worthy?" I stirred my coffee with unhurried grace, letting out a soft scoff. "If you're worthy, how come you're sitting here now looking like a disgraced stray, while I'm perfectly fine?" Emily choked on my words, then snapped bitterly. "What are you so proud of? You've got a bad temper and no job. Do you really think Mr. Morgan still wants you?" She paused for a second, then added cruelly, "You're just an old woman." Up until that moment, I had been composed, but when I heard that, rage flared in me like a lit match in dry grass. Without a second thought, I slapped her across the face, twice. "It's not that Liam doesn't want me," I said coldly. "It's that I don't want him." I leaned closer, my voice sharp and firm. "So what if I'm a few years older than you? In every other aspect, I'm far more attractive than you'll ever be. Even without Liam, there are plenty of better men waiting for me. What do you have?" I gave her a disdainful glance. "Being born lucky takes talent too." I nudged the coffee I had ordered for her closer. "Have some coffee, clear your head, and try not to talk nonsense, unless you want another slap." With that, I walked out of the cafe, head held high. I never saw Emily again after that. But she had crossed me, and without Liam's support, the high horse she once rode was long gone. It didn't take much imagination to know her future wouldn't be pleasant. Sometime after that, I sent Liam another copy of the divorce agreement. Before that, he had come to my door several times, but I never answered. Eventually, I told him outright, if he wouldn't sign the papers, I would file for divorce through the court. He hadn't expected me to be so resolute. Then he called me and asked to meet at the villa to discuss the matter face to face. Hoping to finally bring this to a close, I agreed. That evening, Liam prepared a candlelit dinner, but throughout the meal, he hardly spoke. He just kept drinking, glass after glass, until he was completely drunk. I helped him onto the sofa, then made him a sobering soup. I knew we wouldn't get anything resolved that night, so I got ready to leave. But Liam, eyes red and teary, pulled me into his arms and wouldn't let go. "Luna," he pleaded. "Let's not get divorced. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Can't we start over?" I remained cold. When I realized you didn't even understand my pain, I stopped wanting to explain. All the grievances that had been buried in my heart surged forward, but just as the words reached my lips, I swallowed them down. They weren't worth it. I didn't want to argue or debate, I just wanted distance. Quiet, to cut him out without fuss. I don't educate people, I just choose who stays and who goes. You have your stance, I have my boundaries. Liam was silent for a long time. After drinking the soup, he finally picked up the divorce papers, signed his name, and handed them to me. His eyes were red as he said, "Go, Luna. Goodbye. Leave now before I change my mind." And just like that, we parted with dignity. We said goodbye. And our story ended there. No more ties, no more entanglements. In the 2 years that followed, Liam became even more cold and focused solely on his career. I, too, gradually immersed myself in the work at the Wen Corporation. Meanwhile, my connection with Jason deepened more and more. But what lies ahead, only time will tell. Top of form, bottom of form.